Good day, my friend. It is time for the 55,000 subscriber Q&A. I'm very excited. I've just filmed the 50,000 subscriber Q&A, which is out already. So go and check that out after you've watched this one, or before. Maybe you've seen it. We're going to have some fun today. This is where we sit down and chat. I give you the opportunity on Instagram to ask me anything that you want. And things are typically oriented around travel, adventure, mindset, philosophy, some silly questions. Although there's not too many silly questions in this one, so prepare to get deep and introspective with me in Indonesia, which is where I am while filming this. I like filming Q&As in different environments, it seems. So this one's in Indonesia, the last one was in Canada. Where were we before that? It was a while ago. Zanzibar, something like that. Crazy. No, Bahamas. Yeah, what a life. So, hope you're well. Are you? I hope so. Hopefully you'll be even more well after we finish with this. Let's get into the questions, shall we? I'm going to read them and give you my best answers. Should individuals give loyalty or expect loyalty from each other? It's a fine dance, loyalty, because you don't want to overextend and get compromised and betrayed by being, giving some really high level of loyalty to someone that's not going to repay it. And in the same way, someone could be extremely loyal to you in a situation where you're not inclined to be loyal to them. And so it's a fine dance where you're constantly slightly overextending and pushing the balance, doing something for someone, an act of kindness, displaying your commitment to the friendship or the relationship, and then they up the ante and do the same thing and overextend and see if you're going to match it. And then you make various friendships, both romantic and platonic, that have different degrees of loyalty. And so I don't think you should be always waiting for someone to be loyal to you before you're loyal to them. And I don't think you should always be loyal to people that haven't displayed the same interest in being loyal back. And the way I categorize my relationships and friendships is typically, I up the ante. I love having loyal, deep relationships with people. And so I'll continually up the ante and just see what level of loyalty and commitment and friendship people want to have. What is the darkest place you've been mentally, and what was your path out? This is a deep question. I've spoken about this in some detail, but maybe not in full detail before. The darkest place I've ever been mentally, I've been in a few. Obviously, first world problems. I've always had food on the table and a bed to sleep in. But when I finished university, I did a corporate job for 3 years, as you've heard me speaking about before. And there was a stage where I had absolutely zero social life because I was working 50-hour weeks and needed to because of my position. I was working night shift, so I was like 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. every day. And so I'd go to sleep at 7 a.m. and wake up at 4 p.m. So that is not conducive to making friends or living a happy life. And just the job was an absolute shit show. It was extremely challenging. I enjoyed the challenge in a Stockholm syndrome kind of way. But point being, my mental health declined far lower than I ever thought it could. And I realised that this was not a fruitful way for me to live my life. I knew I was turning 25 soon and that I would blink. And if I kept living like this, I looked at the people, my boss's boss's boss and stuff like that, and the people that I was working with, and I thought, I don't consider anyone to have the life that I want to live. And so if I continue on this path, I'm not going to be happy with the life that I live. And I'll blink and 10 years has passed. Yeah, I'll make some money. But I actually thought I couldn't do it because I would, not that I would kill myself, but like I'd rather die than live a life like that. And so, yeah, when I felt there was no escape because I was in a financial position where I couldn't leave, feelings of literally nothing to live for in my head, I was thinking, there's literally no point in being alive because I don't think I'll ever be happy again, and I just don't enjoy any single moment. So there was a period of about a month long, literally 30 days to 60 days, whatever, where I was like, I've had periods of acute depression before, but I was like, this is more severe because I literally just don't want to be alive. And so when you're in that position, you can feel completely hopeless and like there's nothing that's ever going to change it. But I had this glimmer of, I describe it as like a light at the end of the tunnel, where in my what I thought was a rational brain, I was thinking, oh, you'll never be happy again. Like, there's no point living. Like, this all just completely sucks. What's the point? And I still have this sometimes acutely, if I get into that kind of mindset, where I can be like, okay, you're being completely irrational, and that is not true. You've got previous experience of changing your environment and enjoying life and wanting to live. And so I had that glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dim it seemed at the time. And I thought to myself, get through this, this work, this issue, this financial instability, and whatever. Make a plan for what the future could look like, and no matter what, I knew that if I was, if I had finished this job and I was sitting on a beach in the Philippines with a beer in my hand, that my problems wouldn't still exist in the same way. And I knew that that was possible. All else being equal, I could definitely just leave and go and sit in the Philippines with a beer in my hand. And so, yeah, I had that glimmer of hope, and then I decided that I didn't want to go and do another corporate job, because I thought, when I'm 90 years old, sitting on my deathbed, would I be proud of myself if I stopped doing this one and then did something maybe slightly better, something where I did have a social life, built more relationships, and still made money and enjoyed the job slightly more. But I knew deep in my heart that that's not what I wanted, and seeing as I was giving myself a fresh start, I always wanted to chase adventures and travel, and just be completely my own boss and in charge of the way that I live my life. And so I thought, I'll never be able to forgive myself unless I try and choose this path that I'm on now. So that's a very specific, my biggest story of kind of darkest moment to what I'm doing now. And it's important to remember the proverb of the Chinese farmer that you never know if something's good or bad in the moment until more time has passed. So I wouldn't be filming this video and have the happiness and success that I've had over the last few years if I hadn't been in that dark place. So no matter how bad things seem, there's always positive lessons to be learned. And when I do the row across the North Atlantic, I'm extremely shitting my little boy pants right now about that, because I know with the limited sleep, the horrible conditions, the pain, the suffering, the claustrophobia, being on each other's toes with the other boys on the boat, it's going to be incredibly difficult at various parts. But no matter how bad that feels in the moment, when we touch land again in England, I'll look back maybe 6 months later, maybe a month later, maybe a few years later, and be like, I'm so glad all the things I learned from that experience. What are some mannerisms you modify when in mixed company? Do you treat everyone the same? When you say mixed, I don't know if you mean male, female, social status, or what kind of mix or ethnicity, but I do modify my mannerisms depending on my company, yeah. That's kind of part one of that question. In front of women, I don't swear. I try not to swear as much as possible, and don't bring up any controversial topics in any new company, really, because you don't know how easily people are offended, and you don't want to upset people. So keeping things light until you get a gauge of someone else's perspective on things. It's not very gentlemanly to be triggering people, and in the same way that swearing triggers people. So just being polite and kind and nice and positive to hang around with in any company. And yeah, do I treat everyone the same? I like to think so. I try my best to. I think anytime I interact with another human in any environment, whether it's like, waiting staff or someone I see around, always locking eyes and asking people how they are, and taking a second. When you're ordering food, for example, just take a second to decompress. Maybe ask the server their name, ask how their day's going, remind them to just take it easy and feel like a human again, instead of just someone that's constantly complying to the requests of people. And so, yeah, I think everyone should be treated the same, obviously, and I always go into every interaction and relationship treating everyone the same as best I can. Have you haggled on any of your travels? What are some tips for negotiating in a haggling culture? I hate the energy exchange involved in haggling. Like, you're trying to get the most out of me, I'm trying to get the least out of you, or the most out of you. It's stressful, it's a negative zero-sum game, and I just don't have the energy for it. So it's part of the reason I don't want to go to India anytime soon, is the personal space thing, and also the haggling culture. It's like, I can't be bothered with that. So I don't like getting bent over when it comes to overpaying for things. So in any environment, like even now, if I can afford to pay for something, I won't let someone bend me over. I'd rather just give them 100% tip or pay them double when they're being respectful and not trying to bend me over. That's the best way of me not swearing, is using that terminology, but it's pretty explicit. I might stop saying that. But yeah, when I first started backpacking, I was very much penny pinching, not overextending, and no matter what the economic climate was, I was just trying to save money wherever possible, which was just not a fun way of doing things. And now I just tip wherever I go, so I only travel to places where I can afford it, and then I'll tip if people need the money. And I just don't like haggling, really. It's tiring. Look at me. Look at these old eyes. Look at the bags under my eyes. I'm Tired man. What advice would you give to somebody self-conscious about an unchangeable physical feature? Unchangeable physical feature. I think it's easy for me to say, but over the years, there's various things I would have wanted to change about myself that were potentially unchangeable. But as you pass the age of going to school, like 20, 25 years old, if you're still hung up on physical features that are unchangeable, I think you need to come to terms with that and just focus on the things that are changeable. And quite often people consider unchangeable physical features far more important than they actually are. Especially as a man, your physical attractiveness, your facial attractiveness is so low ranking on your value as a human, like how other people interact with you, even in romantic relationships. Like, no one cares how facially attractive you are as a man. There's so many other things that are higher ranked than that, and I'm first-hand experience of this. Like, people sometimes call me handsome now online, but I guarantee you, and in real life, I guarantee you, no one was calling me handsome before I had social status or a good physique. Like, those things are financial, social, and like physical fitness are all more important as a man than facial attractiveness. So something like that, like, it's easy. I get a lot of losers sometimes say, "Oh, easy for you to say you're handsome and white and tall and whatever." It's like, yeah, well, I guarantee you, if you had a six pack, which is changeable, worked on making more money or more charisma, you wouldn't be worried about those things. So, my advice is just, it's easy to say, but take a back seat on your unchangeable features and just work on the things that you can improve, and you'll be amazed at the way you feel about yourself as a result, and the way that other people treat you. The most unhelpful advice or warnings you received during or before traveling to a place. When you're in a home country and you're telling people about various travels, they'll always be stressed out. The news and the media just propagates issues in various places. Like, a couple of examples of this I went to Ecuador literally as a terrorist attack was happening and the news was surrounded by it. People stormed a studio with guns and people were like, "Ecuador's unsafe, don't go, it's so worrying." And even an Ecuadorian in England said to me, "No, it's probably not a good idea to go." But you go to the country, no one, like, it's entirely unaffected. The city of Guayaquil, I'm saying that wrong, Guayaquil was affected somewhat, and there was like a bit of a lockdown and a curfew, but the rest of the country was absolutely fine. Right now I'm in Indonesia. A volcano erupted 300 kilometers away, and people are messaging me like, "Oh, is that volcano near you? Are you okay?" Like, don't worry, things are typically all right. It's easy to overstress when you're living in a developed country in that rat race mentality in the city of London or whatever. Once you get to a place, you can just relax and get into it. People ask, I recommend Jordan as a country to travel to fairly often, and people say, "Oh, but would you go now with the Israel thing?" I'm not telling you to go to Jordan, but if I were to put a bet on it, I could go to Jordan next week, have a fantastic trip, just not have don't go into Israel, just have a nice trip in Jordan. There's going to be barely any tourists there. The locals will want to have you because the tourism's probably dropped quite a lot, and you would be completely unaffected. Israel's not getting nuked by anyone. The NATO are teamed with Israel, so you'll be fine in Jordan. And then, little things like I sometimes get in my own head before I get into a country. Like, I'll be reading, I went to Montenegro recently, and if you look online about the drone laws in that country, like, can you bring a drone in or whatever, it's like, no, they get seized at the airport, people have had issues and this and that, you got a bribe and things like that, and it's easy to worry. You turn up at an airport in Montenegro, they don't care at all. So, just live a little, take some risk. If there's no risk, there's no story. Don't go into a war zone, obviously, but don't panic so much. What separates cowardice from caution? Good question, I like this. Cowardice and caution can be easily confused, but cowardice is avoiding something because you're scared of it, whereas caution is making sure that you take your time and you have all the necessary information before fully committing to something. So, let's take cliff jumping as a very visual and physical question of, are you being a coward or are you being cautious? Say you want to jump off a 5-meter cliff, okay? You're being a coward if you think, no, I can't jump off the cliff. I'm scared of what might happen to me. I don't want to do it. You're being cautious if you go up to the cliff and you say, has anyone jumped off this right now? What's the tide like? How deep is it at the bottom? Have I jumped off a 3-meter cliff before? Have I jumped off a 4-meter cliff before? You're being cautious there. You're asking yourself the necessary questions. Maybe there's somewhere that you can jump off that's 2 meters first. You can watch someone jump off the 5 meters, and then you can do it for yourself. Or maybe you don't do it, you think, no one's jumped off it, and I don't know how deep the water is, it's not clear enough to see, I'm not going to do it. Whether you do it or you don't do it, taking that cautious approach is definitely a good idea, because you're just assimilating data and then choosing the right outcome. But being a coward and being like, no, I'm scared, I'm not going to even think about it, is obviously a different thing entirely. So that's the difference between those two things. What is something the majority of people are afraid of? Other people's opinions. Everyone is petrified of what other people think about them. Dropping the mask, dropping the facade, just living your life true to being the person you want to be is easier said than done, especially when you have corporate appearances to maintain or social appearances to maintain. But as much as you can, not worrying about what other people think and just living true to yourself in a non-triggering, overly explicit way is extremely powerful way to live. People increasingly frequently come up to me and ask for help on starting social media related activities or presenting themselves online. And it is clear that there's still this major hesitation to worry about being really bad at something and what other people are going to think about them as they do it. When I started, if you go back and watch my first videos, still I'm not the best at anything, but I was really bad, and I knew I was going to be really bad, and that gave me power to not worry about what other people thought, and then just suck for a little while and then get better over time. And that's just the natural journey. It's the way it has to be. You can't just start something and be really good. You have to be willing to suck for over a year and years in a lot of cases and in a lot of pursuits. So only when you can free yourself from that will you be able to take the leap. What equipment would you have in your ideal home gym, or what would you exclude? Oh, this is fun. This is like playing house like a little kid. I have thought about this fairly often recently, and I know exactly what I'd have. And I would have a rack, somewhere to do pull-ups, somewhere to do dips, a heavy barbell for squats, Romanian deadlifts, bent over rows, and that is pretty much the extent of it. I would keep things entirely functional. I wouldn't want any kind of machines in there or cables or anything like that. It's not how I want to train. When I end up having this home gym, I'll be 35 plus, or 30, 35 plus. And so, yeah, I don't have physique goals. I don't really need machines. I just like moving and being functional. And so that's what I'll have. And I'll have an ice bath as well, for sure, and a sauna. Oh my God, so much to look forward to in life, isn't there? What would be your first steps to overcoming a fear or phobia? It's very simple. Whether you're scared of something, you're bad at something, or you're nervous about something, you just have to expose yourself to it. Exposure therapy is the only way to move through something. So if you're scared of it, doing a very small amount of it in a safe way, a manageable way as possible, you'll realize, okay, I could do that. Now on to the next thing, slightly harder. And then you're like, okay, I can do that. Then on to the next thing, slightly harder. That's the only way to overcome fears, is to face them head on in a small, manageable way. Of the places you've been, which ones would you recommend to a first-time solo traveller or group? I'm trying to think of places that would be the most social here and where there's a lot of solo travellers where you can meet other people quite easily. I think in each continent, what I would go for is probably Medellin in South America, Antigua in Guatemala in Central America. In Europe, probably something like Munich is a good idea, but all the European cities you can easily meet solo travellers. What else is good? In Southeast Asia, Thailand or the Philippines, 100% you can have no issues at all as a solo traveller, even Indonesia as well. All of those options are great options for solo travellers and first timers as well. As a first timer, I would go Guatemala or Southeast Asia as like an introduction with good infrastructure. Do you think you'll work as long as you're physically able to, or do you have some form of retirement plan? Yeah, I will always work until the day I die. I think humans need work. You can't retire. I'm technically kind of retired now. I'm as retired as I'll ever be. I'm sure I'll change the pace and what I direct my energy into, but I consider work, like raising a kid is work, going to the gym is work, making sure you're eating properly is work, making money is work, continuing to maintain social relationships is work. Furthering your business interests is work. So I'll always be working on myself and all the domains that I'm interested in. But ideally, there will be a point in the next 15, 20 years where money is not the primary driver of work. And so, yeah, then it will turn into other things. If you ever had to assume a new identity, what would be the reason and what guise would you take? Guise. Oh, I never knew. I forgot that was a shortening of the word disguise, I guess. If you ever had to assume a new identity, I'm going to go deep on you again. Sorry, guys, but I don't like the question because your name and your character and your virtues are something that you should never sell. And so the idea that you can just give up on the version of the avatar of yourself that you've built and then just rebuild it shows that you've not stood true to your virtues as you lived your life. If you need to completely withdraw from them and start again, start a new character, as it were, it shows that you've not lived with integrity with the first time of asking. It's a bit like the Brad Pitt asks Christoph Waltz's character at the end of Inglourious Bastards when he knows that he's going to take off. What does he say? When you get to your place on Nantucket Island, I imagine you're going to take off that handsome SS uniform of yours, ain't ya? Something like that. And the symbolism behind that is, this Nazi Christoph Waltz is going to completely change his identity and then try and find more virtuous life in the future. And so that's not a very noble excuse, is it? And that's why he scars him on the head with the swastika.
But I do have one question. When you get to your little place on Nantucket Island, I imagine you're going to take off that handsome-looking SS uniform of yours, ain't you? That's what I thought.
So my point being, you should live fully with your set of virtues and values in the first time of asking so that you don't need to rebrand yourself and go and hide somewhere with a new identity. Oh, that was a weird answer. I can't believe my brain went to Inglourious Bastards on that. Do you still enjoy lifting after 10 years? I'm an old boy now. It's amazing that I've lifted for 10 years. I used to watch videos of people that lifted for 10 years after I'd done 2, 3, 4 and be like, wow, I can't believe that. I can't believe that's a real thing. 10 years of lifting. Do I still enjoy it? I love it and I will never stop. It's so important for your health, but also it's so important for my mind. And that feeling you get of pushing yourself to failure in a muscular hypertrophic, is hypertrophic a word? Hypertrophic way is amazing. The feeling of the pump, the feeling of functional muscle training exercise, I'll never want to give that up. I still enjoy it, but I have to motivate myself more sometimes now than before, because before it came from a feeling of insufficiency. I need to get bigger, I need to build muscle. So it was easy to get into the gym because I was motivated by that angry fire. And now it's like, well, I enjoy it. Physically, I enjoy it, and I don't need bigger legs. I don't need bigger anything. I don't want bigger anything. But I just enjoy the process of failing. And I also need it for my mind. So I need to suffer, ideally in the morning, just put myself there in that state of failure and suffering. And so I know that if I don't train and I let my mind down, then I'm going to start to suffer internally if I don't suffer physically. And so that's what prompts me to do it still when I don't feel motivated. But yeah, most of the time I do enjoy it, and I adapt my training to make it more enjoyable, because otherwise you'll get damn bored after 10 years for sure. Which sport/challenge is most important to you at the moment? I've done a lot of stuff in the last couple of years. It's been a real pleasure. And the things you might have seen me do: skydiving, scuba diving, mountaineering, jungle treks, jet skiing, motorbiking, driving cars fast, running, lifting weights, all those kinds of things. They've all been interesting to me at various points, and surfing at the moment. This was interesting to me now. The thing that's most important to me is I've got this idea in my head that I won't be able to shake regarding high altitude mountaineering. So I think I was like 18, 19 years old when I decided I wanted to climb Aconcagua, the highest mountain in South America and the highest mountain outside the Himalayas. So I think I'm going to have a go at that at some point. and then maybe see how I feel after the North Atlantic row, because that's going to be monumentous and extremely painful. So maybe I'll want to keep doing slightly more difficult stuff for a little bit longer. But I'm not the type of guy, as you've seen from my bodybuilding approach. I didn't get to my natural limit and think, now I need to take steroids and get even bigger. In the same way with my physical difficult challenges, I've built up a lot of competence over the last couple of years. I'll continue to pursue those in the domains that I enjoy. I'll get to the point where I climb Aconcagua, and then I'll see, do I want to do something in the Himalayas? Maybe. I'll row across the North Atlantic, and maybe that'll be the end of my ocean rowing. Maybe there'll be something more difficult, endurance related and jungle related. I'm sure I'll put myself through things, but as I tend towards 35-ish years old, I'm not going to be the amount that I'm going to be risking my life and my health. I'm not going to need that in order to satisfy myself. I can almost feel it dissipating already in a worrying way. So I've got to get into a very dark place to get across the Atlantic and to get up Aconcagua. And then, we'll see what drives me after that. But yeah, I love physical challenges of all kinds. Maybe I'll get way more into surfing in the future. Maybe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, maybe Muay Thai. Just following my heart and not being stressed by needing to do something. Do you still ever get depressed, and how do you cope? Yeah, sometimes. So since my major depression, leaving my corporate job, it's snuck in a few times, maybe 2 or 3 times. When I did, after a year of traveling and went back to the UK, I had a little blip for 2 days where I was like, losing the will to live. And then I was like, oh damn, I thought I was past that, and I thought it was impossible to be touched by that emotion again. But since then, it's an indication of what you need to work on. And I understand what's important to me now on a day-to-day basis, and I've absolutely nailed that here in Indonesia. Like, I'm the happiest and most content I've ever been in my 27 years on this planet, which is an amazing feeling. I know that it's not going to last forever, and I know that my life in the UK and across the North Atlantic, there's going to be moments where I'm like potentially losing the will to live, but I know that that is a product of my environment and it's controllable. And so yeah, I'm sure I'll get some types of acute depression fairly soon. But I know how to deal with it. I know what my ideal day-to-day looks like, and I know that makes me happy and content, both long and short term, as I alluded to in the previous Q&A. And how do I cope with it? Just the knowledge that it's a product of my environment, and I've learned over time what pulls me out of that state. And also that it's a transient state, and it's a message from your brain to you to say, hey, something's not right about the way you're living. Fix it. You have the power to fix it. You don't need drugs. You're not a depressed person. You're just feeling feelings of depression. So here's a little nudge that you're doing something wrong. Fix it, and things will be good again. How do you deal with anxiety? Now, anxiety is a weird one because I've never felt this until the age of I never identified with it until the age of about 23 to 25 maybe. And then, it really hit me. Like, you wake up in the morning and you'd be like, I don't want to see anyone. I feel anxious about going to the gym, or I feel anxious about, especially with posting online. Like, there's times where I'm like, I really just don't want to post anything or see anyone or whatever, or you feel anxious about it. The best thing for me is just morning movement. Suffering in the morning, whether it's a run or a training session, it gets those endorphins flowing, and that can kill a lot of anxiety. And then not being glued to your phone is huge as well. And also, social interaction kills anxiety. Getting out the house. People are so stuck in the house these days. So yeah, get out the house, speak to people, and realize that you can't just rest on your laurels for an extended period of time. You need to do that on a continual basis to get rid of anxiety. Your advice on not knowing exactly which way to head in life, job, and etc. Greetings from Germany. Greetings from Indonesia, my friend. You don't need to know exactly which way to head in life, and you don't need to know exactly what work you want to do, and you don't need to know the full picture and the full story of your life from right now. I certainly don't. Most people certainly don't, and the people that have the most content lives, I'm sure, didn't at almost entirely every stage. All you need is some form of direction that is true to yourself and your own values, what you enjoy and what you want from life. So just think about, am I doing a job that's meaningful to me, and will I be happy if I do this for the next 20 years? Will I consider my time to be well spent, or will I consider it to be wasted? In the same way that if you were to just go traveling for a year, someone might consider that extremely well spent time and someone might consider it wasted time. So don't worry about not knowing which way you're going or where your life's what it's gonna look like in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. Pick something that you find meaningful. Try and discover yourself and listen to yourself and follow your heart. And the puzzle will slowly become clearer over time. And I can say that from experience, because my puzzle's not entirely clear, but I know that that is the correct outcome because I've done that. And the more I've listened to myself and my gut, everything's just opened up. The world's opened up for me. Do you ever get homesick? And if so, how do you deal with it? No, I don't get homesick. I don't really have a home anymore. I did maybe a bit initially, but I don't. All of my friends and my connections are spread all over the world. I'm kind of a citizen of the world now, so I don't consider myself to have a home. I'm a pretty homeless guy. So I don't get homesick, but I do get lonely. That's an overriding negative emotion that I feel, or I'm prone to, maybe you could say, and it does grab me by the balls sometimes and shakes me around, which is not nice. And so I know what I need to do in terms of maintaining social connections and being sociable at various points in my life in order to not feel lonely, and how to find those connections. Easier said than done in a lot of places, but I don't solo travel anymore for that reason, because the loneliness became too much. So obviously I'm kind of solo traveling now, but I've got a friend here, Harry, who I'm spent the last 3 weeks kind of just going for the odd meal with and meeting people together, surfing together. And in the States, had a mate fly out, met someone in Canada. So you'll notice when I started first time in Southeast Asia, it was solo traveling, but the associated pros don't outweigh the cons of the loneliness anymore. So I feel that, and so you just gotta deal with it if you want to deal with it. So for me, when I first solo traveled, I was like, okay, I feel like shit. I don't enjoy the lack of social connection, and I feel homesick, lonely, whatever. But my pursuit of building the social media and documenting my adventures was a more important calling than that. So I was able to be slightly discontent because I was serving a higher function. And so for you, you might want to put up with that feeling of homesickness or loneliness, and decide what's most important to you, or maybe it becomes not more important than being home or being with friends. How to be positive when I can't be asked going to the gym. By positive, I think you mean how can I go to the gym when I can't be asked going to the gym? And you've either got it or you don't, mate. You've got the minerals or you don't. Are you a little pussy, or are you someone that works hard to achieve their goals even when they don't feel like it? That's what I ask myself, and it works. That's what I tell my clients to ask themselves, and it works. It doesn't matter if you can be asked to do something. Sometimes you need to rest, but at the end of the day, you need to work out what is your mission, and how badly do you want to achieve your mission. You can just wither into a bubble of comfort, or you can be uncomfortable, go to the gym and try and achieve your mission. Define your mission and stick to it. Otherwise, you'll struggle to look at yourself in the mirror and things get worse. Okay, the penultimate question. Any advice for first time living in a new country for a long period of time, in brackets 5 months? I've never lived in a new country for a long period of time, so I'm not a subject matter expert on this, but my advice would be, and this applies to me when I'm traveling in a new country, I've lived in various places for a month or 2 months, make sure that you can satisfy the amount of social connection that you need in that place. And so in order to do that, you might feel like just watching Netflix or being on your own, but that might not be what makes you happy or content in that place. And so it might be an idea for you to get out of the house as much as possible. If you're work in a coffee shop or in a place where you might be able to start interactions with people, and go to the places, start hobbies where people with similar interests and values are going to be. So it could be something fitness related or artistic or cultural or whatever. Go and join that book club, wine tasting, cooking class, gym, CrossFit class, high rocks class, whatever. Get out there and meet people with similar values, and that's how you'll make friends. For example, on my first time, couple of days in Lombok, I went out surfing on my own, with my old instructor, and then made a friend there. Literally it was just her and I that started surfing together on that day, and then we ended up hanging out for multiple days after that. And that wouldn't have happened if I had just not gone surfing and done an activity that I could find someone that was aligned in values with me. And actually the day that I landed on Lombok, it was 6 p.m. and I was thinking, what do I want to do tonight? I was a bit hungry, but not that hungry, and I was feeling a bit agitated. So I thought to myself, I could just be like a sad loser and go for a dinner on my own and then go to bed early and then start the next day without having had any social interaction. And I knew that that's not what I wanted. So I went to the gym, ended up meeting someone at the gym, and then we went for dinner that night together and then hung out the next day as well. So then went to the gym at 6 p.m, then went for dinner at 7:30, had a nice evening, and then hung out in the future as well. So yeah, just not recoiling into introvert mode. Getting out there and meeting people is my advice. Want fitness like you, what to do? No words wasted in that question. I have a piece of what I consider to be charity because I make no money on it, and I entirely built it for the young version of myself that I wanted to help get in shape, because there's so many people out there that have no money that aspire to achieve what I've achieved and just want a condensed source of information in order to learn from my training principles. And so that's why I released my app, which is completely risk-free. You get 7 days for free, and it's just the price of a cup of coffee a week in order to maintain the cost of the app. And there's a community of men in there all getting in shape. We run various challenges at various points. You can ask me questions on anything you want in the community at any time, as many people do. So if you're ever stuck on anything, you can ask me. And then I've got all of my nutritional information, training principles and programs in there alongside that as well. It's insane value. So if you're a bit stumped on your fitness but can't afford a one-to-one coach, and one-to-one coaching isn't what you want, that is exactly what you need. Speaking of one-to-one coaching, I'm not sure exactly when this video gets released, but I'm going to have a huge kick of availability in the new year. I've already got loads of applicants that I'm going to be getting through in December. And so if you want to seriously invest in your coaching and you like the way that I think and work, and not invest in your coaching, invest in your physical fitness, and you like the way I think and work, then the link to that, it will be in the description as well, so you can check out the way that works, and we can get on a call, and I'll get to you as soon as I have availability, which, like I said, I should have a lot more in the new year, which is exciting to work with loads more of you. So yeah, that is 2 Q&As. You'll see in the same background the 50,000, I shouldn't say K, it's demeaning, the 50,000 subscriber Q&A and the 55,000 subscriber Q&A. They were less fun questions and a lot of deeper questions, but that's kind of the mindset that I'm in right now, because I've just been really enjoying my time here in Indonesia, and so it's nice to answer those questions in my current state of mind. And in the next Q&A and podcasts and things like that, we'll delve into various other things. But yeah, it's been good to open up on those topics. Hope you're well. I hope you're excited, content with the way that your 2024 is ending, and you've got some kind of direction about the way your 2025 is going to begin. Just remember, you only get one spin on this planet, so give it everything. You're going to be tired, you're going to be unmotivated, but think about what you want to achieve and what you want to do. It's different for everyone, and just really dig in, work hard, and it's always worth it. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoy the adventures as well. Around this time, there's going to be lots of Indonesia vlogs. I need to go out and film a couple more days in the life, and also those videos from Canada as well were great fun. So enjoy those. Have a great Christmas if I don't see you. I'm sure I will. And see you very soon. See you on the next adventure. All the best.
Oh, you want me to say that?
You have to.
Oh, I have to. Like and subscribe.
No, say it with conviction and look
Please like and subscribe. Adam Radcliffe at YouTube,
.com.
Instagram, Facebook.